Hello guys, welcome to another video. Singularity, Rimuru x Arifureta, by Aestics. Chapter 5, Milady Ryson. Chan. By the way, where are we going now? I asked. We are currently traveling in the barren gorge. Our goal for now is going to be the Ryson gorge, but first I want to go to a town and take care of some things there. There's one in this direction as you've shown in that map earlier, Hajime. The map that Hajime spoke of is naturally my original magic, the physics magic. Argos. It is a large surveillance system. By deploying huge water lenses near the stratosphere, a magnified view of a target destination can be captured, creating detail-rich video of the place. Now, as Hajime said, when I projected a map of where we currently are, a town can be seen in the direction we are heading. A few minutes went by and we finally arrived. After a relatively short line, it was our turn for inspection. Status plate, please. Guard, status plate. At that, Hajime handed the guard some weird and small rectangular device. It glowed after Hajime spoke, status open, and displayed, in them, except for name, age, and gender. It seemed to be some sort of ID. Did he forget to tell me about it? What am I supposed to show? It seemed Hajime also realized he forgot to tell me and is now coming up with excuses. What is the purpose of your visit, guard? The guard asked as he handed in Hajime's plate. Our main reason is to stock up food and supplies. I also have some materials I want to sell, Hajime. If that's the case, then you'd want to head to the Adventurers Guild. They'll give you a free map of the town, so they ought to be of decent help. So, what about theirs? The guard asked as she pointed at us. A monster attack caused them to lose it, Hajime. Got it. You're free to pass. Just go down the central road to get to the guild. Welcome to Brook, guard. Okay, Hajime. Welcome to the Brook branch of the Adventurers Guild. What can I do for ya? Wow. Look at that guy over there, what a dreamboat. Plus, with the blonde, you got some beautiful companions, young man. This receptionist is no beauty, sorry to say, old woman. After Hajime's transformation, he certainly did look more handsome. He'd look dashing if not for his outfit, that is. Despite that, he pales in comparison to the likes of you and, well, not to brag, me. No, I wasn't thinking that at all. Anyway, I'm looking to sell some minerals. Hajime ignored all that and went straight to the point. Gotcha, sales it is. Then could you get your status plate out for me, old woman? Hajime handed his status plate. From then on, things went fairly smoothly. We got registered in the guild, albeit in the lowest rank for now, and Hajime managed to sell his monster loot. Some of them were rare and like very very rare, so the old woman, who is called Catherine, naturally got shocked. Right now, we're walking in the streets. Me and you attract tons and tons of unwanted attention, but I just let out some coercion out of me to keep out troublemakers from bothering us. This town's got a pretty good vibe to it, huh? Hajime said as he marveled at the relaxed atmosphere in the streets. Sure does, I replied while eating some street food I bought. Yeah, you. Our new destination right now is the inn in the map which Catherine kindly highlighted. After a few minutes, we finally arrived. Oh, hello. Welcome to the Masaka Inn. The place was called Masaka Inn, and we immediately got greeted by some 15-year-old looking girl who was somehow red as a tomato right after we entered. She also seemed to keep stealing glances from a certain golden-eyed guy, me, which I'd pretend and prefer not to notice. We came here following this guide, Hajime said as he handed out the map, or more like a tourist guide, to Hajime. Aha. You came here on Catherine's recommendation, got it. How many nights are you planning to stay? The girl was fairly easygoing. All of us were amazed at how popular Catherine is, but Hajime replied that we only need one night. You the girl asked, blushing. Well, about the rooms. We have 2-person and 3-person rooms available. A 3-person room's fine. Hajime, a 3-person room. Very good, sir. The girl. Don't get wrong ideas, woman. I have a rough idea in mind on what she's thinking, so I warned her sternly. Got it. After having finished their business back in Brook, all three of us set out to the Ryson Gorge once again. After a few hours of looking. Good, Rimuru here finally found it. I didn't have Raphael search for it, as I like to enjoy this kind of thing. Something like treasure hunt. Welcome one and all. Welcome to Milady Ryson's heart-pounding dungeon, is what the text written in a stone vertical platform says. I unconsciously muttered. Yeah, ain't no way, Hajime. The damn thing was a bit too lighthearted for a word like Great Labyrinth. Hajime and Yu can personally vouch as the labyrinth they know is a veritable hell, and then there's this piece of shit claiming that it's one of the great labyrinths. Nah, it's true. Over there I think, I said as I pushed a section of the wall and, like a secret passage, the wall flipped, allowing for entrance. As we all went in, we were immediately shot with arrows, a classic labyrinth trope. For us, it was no problem, however, the labyrinth was beyond annoying. We continued on, but for Yu and Hajime, it was being increasingly difficult. That is to say that every time we overcome a trap, provoking tablets of stone containing cursedly sarcastic words pops up. Are you scared? So afraid you want to cry? Jihihihi? A little girl's voice could be heard. This labyrinth could have taken an awfully long time had it not been for my universal perception. Hajime and Yu were reaching their breaking point as well, and they looked ready to snap at any moment. Shriek, they were passing through a corridor when two spinning saws came out of the walls. Dodge, I calmly said. At my words, everyone dodged with ease. After that, we went through more traps similar to the one before, and that voice always irritated us. It was still tolerable for me because of a certain pinky-sized fairy from my past life, but the two couldn't stand the voice that was always laughing as if it was happy to see them suffer anymore. It was really annoying. The two had already taken this little girl as a mortal enemy. I think we are near the end. I detected some changes and spoke out loud enough for the two behind me to hear. We arrived in a distinguished room. This room had several statues of well-equipped knights. Me and Hajime looked at each other as if to say, that can't be it, right? Hajime, look at that door. It's the same as the one in the Orcus hideout. Yu pointed to the door at the end of the room. What she said was right too. That door was the same as the one in the room where they faced the Hydra. We were going to walk to the door, but these things are controlled through a special type of material. They aren't conscious nor are they alive. They're like remote-controlled dolls. Stay on your guard. I spoke out the details that Raphael's analysis gave me. I am confident enough that nothing can pass through my universal barrier, but one can never be too careful inside a great labyrinth. On cue, the golems started moving. They possessed inhuman strength and speed, but they got quickly obliterated by me and Hajime. Hajime used his electromagnetically accelerated rocket launcher, Orkan, to launch out missiles that destroyed the enemy. During this time, I fought with pure swordsmanship, no other usage of skills, even future attack prediction. I'm used to it, and my swordsmanship is greatly enhanced during the war to the point that I can confidently say even the deceased Hinata and Hakuro are no match for me now in terms of sheer technical precision. So, fighting with just my sword is no problem at all. My physical strength is powerful enough that I can cut these golems with a stick in a flick of a finger like hot knife through butter. Yu is just on standby. As a main magic user, this places her weakness with its mana dispersing property. Dozens of golems had fallen, but they all keep rising up. So, we need to obliterate them entirely? If so, then, Hajime, step back? I made a surprising discovery. These golems were controlled via some exotic wavelength. It also distorted gravity, and they keep regenerating through some unknown means. So, how to deal with it? Simple. Just obliterate it entirely. Down to the last atoms, subatoms, quarks, etc. As I said so, I used law manipulation to telekinetically gather all the golems, as I held out my hand with two glowing small orbs of red and blue. I snapped my fingers and a singularity appears. Hollow, purple. Rimuru. It was part of the unique skill I once gained during the war and is integrated into Uriel called Limitless. It basically encompassed a fictitious and paradoxical infinite series that can be brought into reality in order to produce impossibilities that distort space and physics. When the infinity collides with the forward and reverse rotations, the convergence and divergence of an infinite series, the expulsion of an imaginary mass is born to fill a void. The effect takes the target out of reality, completely deleting all energy and matter in its path. Rather than the attraction of the amplified convergence or the repulsion of inverse divergence, purple is an extraordinarily destructive energy wave of annihilation that rips whatever it hits from existence. Of course, all the golems that were gathered in one place via telekinetic force were erased completely. The imaginary mass deleted everything down to the most minute level. Hajime and Yu are finished on their part as well, and by my words, concluded that a controller is somewhere around. As per response, a new door opened, leading us to a room of darkness and floating platforms. Where the fuck? Everything's floating here, Hajime. It's creepy. Finding all this weird, all of us went and jumped into one of the floating platforms, and before we could completely land on it, I sensed something falling at high speeds, as if its gravity was being purposely accelerated and redirected. A giant rock hit the platform we were just standing on. Soundless surprise attack. Or was it gravity? That thing hit as hard as a meteor, so it must be gravity. How clever. Oh, there you are, I said as I teleported us to a nearby platform, while our former standpoint shattered. Two glowing spheres of red light appeared on the bottomless darkness below the platforms. You've gotta be kidding me. That's way too big, Hajime. That's what she said. Rimuru-sensei, now's not the time for that, Anyways, this sure seems like a good boss fight, Hajime. Right. A massive golem, dwarfing all those we've fought before in this world, arose from down below. As Hajime said, it was big. Probably easily dozens of meters tall or even more. It was a giant hunk of metal, but what was more surprising was... Yeah, no shit, bro. That thing's a massive hunk of Azantium, I shouted, unable to keep myself from smiling excitedly. Azantium was akin to adamantite or even dragotite back in the cardinal world, and here was a whole golem of it. It was covered by a thick layer of stone, but inside it is where those chunks were. What the fuck? Hajime said as sweat dripped from his forehead, while Yu just hummed in annoyance. Us three, me included, are honestly surprised. Azantium's the hardest ore in Tortus. Almost all of Hajime's weapon is made of it, and a thin sheet of Azantium could even guard against a full power blast of Hajime's Donner. And there's a whole-ass giant golem made of it here. Wait, that couldn't be. A few seconds after, I noticed something. It's still not concretely definite, so I refrained from jumping into conclusions. Raphael was quiet too. What is it? Yu and Hajime asked while not keeping their eyes off the golem. As they pondered, that same old annoying voice that had been irritating us to no ends for hours can be heard once more. Heya, nice to meet you, it's me, everybody's favorite Milady Ryson, Milady Golem. The cutesy voice coming out of the heavily armed and armored golem was so utterly incongruous that we couldn't help it. The giant golem frowned in displeasure as it looked down. Judging from its voice, I kind of guessed it was a she. Hello, aren't you going to say anything? It's proper manners to return a greeting, you know? Sheesh, kids these days. No respect, I tell you, Milady Golem. I knew it, I muttered, unbelievable, you. The golem with a burning knuckle in one hand and a flail in the other shrugged her shoulders in a very human-like fashion. Irritated expressions flitted across our faces. She talked just like the messages we'd seen. Since she'd called herself Milady Ryson, it was possible it was the Liberator herself, but she was supposedly long dead and a human. Hajime decided to try that angle of questioning first. My bad, but wasn't Milady Ryson a human? And isn't she dead? Anyway, we've never seen a sentient golem before, so we were a bit surprised. Sorry about that. Also, tell us what exactly you are. As concisely as possible, please, Hajime. Oh my, you're quite forward. Milady Golem. I think it's ancient magic, Rimuru. Yeah, ancient magics are powerful. There could be one that interfere with souls. What she inhibits right now is just a vessel to establish a presence within the world. Possession, in layman's terms, Rimuru. In a way, she was like spiritual lifeforms. Wait, how do you know that? Do you have the spirit magic? No, it can't be. If someone cleared it, I should have known. But wait. Hey, what's going on here? What are you, Milady Golem? Hey, guess what, Rimuru? What, Milady Golem? Fuck you. That's what, I said while revealing my middle finger. It seemed it worked, as Milady went quiet. She was even taken aback. Pissing people off had become a specialty of mine. I normally used it for Guy as his reactions were fun when we fought together, or to Feldway when we were in the battlefield. Why you damn brat. I finally get a chance to talk to someone, and this is how you treat me? Fine, as an esteemed adult, I'll let that remark pass. As for the other guy's question, Milady was Al. Milady's golem was expressionless, but she seemed genuinely pissed. I got a laugh out of that. She was about to respond to Hajime's question, but was quickly interrupted. Don't bullshit me. There were a few things written about you in Oscar's notebook. And don't give me shit like, oh, but I look just like a human, don't I? Just keep it short. It looks like you're trying to get in our way, so we'll be turning you into scrap soon enough. That's why there's no need for any annoying banter, Just tell us what we want to know, Hajime. At least let me finish. Wait, did you just say Oscar? Are you three perhaps the ones who cleared Ochan's labyrinth, Milady Golem? Yeah, we've already beat Oscar Orcus dungeon. But I'm the one asking the questions here. If you don't want to answer, that's fine too. We'll just move straight to the part where we crush you to pieces. It's not like I'm dying to know any of this information. All we're here for is the ancient magic. Hajime pointed Donner at the massive golem to accentuate his words. If you want the ancient magic, does that mean you're going to kill the gods? Are you going to take out those conniving little bastards for us? If you got to the end of Ochan's labyrinth, then you must know what's going on, right, Milady Golem? I told you, I'm the one asking the questions here. If you want me to tell you anything, you answer first, Hajime. You really are a cocky little brat. Well, whatever. Where to begin? Guess we'll start with my real identity. Milady Golem. Like I said, keep it short. I don't need an entire novel's worth like when I saw Oscar, Hajime. Ahaha. I guess Ochan can be a little long-winded. He always did like to talk. The massive golem looked up at the sky, quietly reminiscing. She really felt more like a human than a lump of rock. You was as expressionless as always, but I was glancing at the golems around us. Alright, so put simply, I am indeed Milady Ryson, and the secrets of these golems lie in the ancient magic I can use. If you want to know more, then you'll have to beat me first, Milady Golem. That's not an expo. Before Hajime could finish, he was interrupted by Milady. I did answer your question. Now you answer mine. Her tone suddenly shifted drastically at the end of her sentence. Her playful, cutesy voice was replaced by a dead serious one. Hajime and you were slightly taken aback. Still, they didn't let it show on their faces. What, Hajime? What are you after? Why do you want to collect ancient spells so badly? Her tone made it clear that she wouldn't forgive him for lying. It was possible this was her real personality. After all, she was a member of the group that had risen up against the gods for the sake of the people. Unlike Oscar, who'd passed away and left only a video recording of himself, Milady had spent centuries here waiting for a challenger to come and lay claim to her power. In a way, it must have been torture. Her frivolous attitude might only have been a front, while the real her was someone with an immense amount of patience and a strong sense of responsibility. Hajime's gaze met Milady's, and he told her the truth. My only goal is to return home. One of your stupid mad gods summoned me to this world by force. I'm just trying to find a spell that can teleport me back. I have no interest in carrying on your crusade against the gods. I'm not going to risk my life for this world, Hajime. She stared at Hajime for a few seconds before turning to look at you, then me. Seemingly coming to some sort of understanding, she nodded curtly. I see, I understand now. You're not from this world. Yeah, that must have been tough for you. Alright, let's duel. Beat me and get your hands on the power you seek. Her serious tone of voice vanished, and was replaced by the cutesy one she had been using before. Tired of her games, Hajime pulled out Orkan. If she wasn't going to say anything, then he would just beat her and get his own answers. And yet, before he could fire, she opened her mouth and taunted him while doing a V-pose of her giant and hard fingers. Bitch. Milady Golem. Die. Hajime let loose a barrage of missiles. They left a trail of sparks as they slammed into the Milady Golem and exploded. The explosion echoed loudly across the massive room. Smoke enveloped the space Milady had been occupying. As for me, I was the MVP of the team all the way here. That's why, if I also beat Milady, Hajime and you might not meet the requirements to inherit the ancient magic. Since Milady herself is here, it's possible that she's the one that deems who's worthy, but just in case. With that, I chose to stand by while floating in the air. I get your reasoning on why you're standing by, but can you please not eat popcorns as if you're enjoying this? Hajime barked out. Well, he wasn't wrong. I really was just sitting in the air, eating popcorns. It certainly looked like I was watching some live-action movie. But, hey. Even though the reasoning is absurd, it's valid, isn't it? My decision remained firm for now. A burning fist punched its way through the smoke. Milady swept her hand across, blowing away the smoke. As the smoke cleared, Milady's forearms were crumbling here and there. She hadn't taken any serious damage. She grabbed one of the nearby floating blocks and crushed it, using the particles to restore her own body. Fufu, congratulations on landing the first strike, but I'm sure you can do better than that. Come on, I might have the spell you're looking for. I'm pretty strong though, so try not to die, Milady Golem. Accompanied by joyous laughter, Milady fired the flail attached to her left arm at Hajime. Not swung, fired. How cool was that? There was no wind-up, so the flail attached to the end of an arm was just suddenly hurtling toward them. She must have been able to control the direction of her gravity like the other golems, so she made the flail fall at them. Hajime and Yu jumped to a nearby platform to avoid it. It shattered the block they had just jumped off of and, like it was swimming through the air, turned around and went towards me. I sighed as I muttered, collapse, and at that, the flail decomposed to dust, transformed into steam, and scattered away into the air. After that, my hand glowed, and I moved my index finger into the air like I was drawing something. At that, multiple of the platforms were sent to Milady's giant golem at speeds unthinkable for its mass. Telekinesis. At this level of output, too, Milady was visibly surprised. The weight of those platforms was fairly high. By manipulating friction and inertia with Uriel, I could freely redefine the velocity and momentum of objects. The golem knights that had been on standby until then suddenly sprang into action. Like they had in the hallway, they pointed themselves like bullets at Hajime and Yu, then fell straight at them. Oops. Before that, I moved in front, focused my demonic aura in my right hand and threw it at the air in front, disintegrating the golems at that direction completely. You guys, her ancient magic manipulates gravity, or more like the energy of a star. Her core's where a human heart is, so target that. I'll handle the golems. You guys deal with her. I told Hajime and Yu, while I still stand suspended in the air. Wah, how do you know that, Milady, Roger, Hajime? Yu, came the reply of the two. Uriel's law manipulation is pretty self-explanatory, but there's more to it than that. It is basically the ability to engineer all forms of phenomena, aside from manipulating scientifical and magical laws. It was a lot of Greek to me before, but after years of fighting and constant conflict, I gradually mastered it as my secondary means of offense and defense aside from Beelzebub. Controlling the forms of matter, surrounding energies and elements of my choosing, I can bend the ambient energy, human emotion, and conscious thought at will, which makes me, confidently I must say, exceedingly powerful in controlling anything at the atomic levels. Fundamental properties like heat, inertia, and gravity can be manipulated at any time. That is why, with a light swing of my hand over to the side, a mighty gust of wind was summoned, breaking down dozens of golems away into dust. What the fuck is he? How could he manipulate gravity without gravity magic? Milady now couldn't hide her surprise as she verbally spouted her thoughts. My powers aren't that of this world's system, after all. So, it's normal to be surprised, even for someone who's lived for so long like her. And so, Hajime and Yu, against Milady. Their fight continued. They now chose to ignore me and the golems and focused solely on their own fight. And, well, Hajime and Yu were getting a fair bit of advantage, with the golems out of their way. Attack after attack, clash after clash. They attempted to overwhelm Milady. However, one of the liberators aren't going down without a fight. They've got no disturbances, as their stupidly broken sensei are taking care of the golems. After gaining the advantage for some time, Milady was knocked back and for some reason, she wasn't drawing nearby platforms to her in order to repair her arms. Instead, she was looking up at the sky, her eyes glowing brightly. Hajime stiffened. I've got a bad feeling about this. I think she gonna make the ceiling fall. Rimuru telepathically said to Hajime and Yu. What the foo? Before Hajime could reply, the room rumbled. The ceilings got divided into large cubes of blocks and they all started falling down, attempting to crush everything below. Milady was bringing the entire ceiling down on them. She had a helmet but she exuded a triumphant atmosphere. Foo, here's my revenge. Aside from the knights, I can't give multiple objects orders at once, but I can make everything fall. Try dodging this, Milady Golem. Milady's words irked Hajime, but there wasn't any time to worry about her. There were a few platforms making up part of the room's wall, but its ceiling was made almost entirely of platforms. Each of those platforms was easily 10 tons, and they were falling as thickly as raindrops. Cold sweat poured down Hajime's forehead. However, the world's strongest sensei has their backs. Make it null and void, Beelzebub. Milady heard the cool, breezy voice of the other guy. Who was with the two in front of her? Unlike Hajime's white hair and cold red eyes, or the blonde's exceptional doll-like beauty. This one had golden eyes and lustrous silvery hair laced with a hint of freshwater, giving off a moon-white glow, which fluttered in this room of darkness amidst the destruction, like the first sun in the genesis of grand design construction. He possessed an otherworldly divine beauty, which makes others seriously question both his gender and their gender, that separates him and his students apart. He was, for some reason, openly straying from a battle with her. Mady thought he was just a vanguard, but the power he showcased indicated he was no foe to trifle with. From the fact that he could freely navigate through her labyrinth, to the complete obliteration of her golems. She was so focused on her battle with Hajime and Yu that she actually forgot about him. And now, Rimuru casted imaginary space, a trump card of his that was the result of the war he was part in. A sub-skill of Beelzebub that was gained after many, many battles. It was like the combination of stomach plus isolation plus predation, hyper-enhanced to transcendental percentages. With his words, a huge black hole with red accretion disk appeared and swallowed all cubes and bits, deleting them from reality and consigning them to the infinite void of imaginary space. The black hole is just an image for convenience, as it doesn't actually exist. Imaginary space is completely abstract. By that logic, the black hole too is just an imaginary and intangible gateway, as opposed to a real black hole which causes a rift in space-time and has a singular point of infinite gravity. The black hole isn't even needed. Imaginary space can work just fine without the visuals as it just absorbs any and all selected target and is normally invisible. Rimuru just utilized the black hole image to add an eerie vibe. It was a beautiful yet terrifying sight. A villainous force that threatened to engulf the very universe. Ignoring all time and space, everything that came near the incorporeal black hole got consigned to oblivion not even a second after it appeared. As I thought, this golem isn't your real body, isn't it? You're just controlling it like the other ones. Not that it changes anything, Rimuru said, walking in the air like a Chad as he approached Mady's giant golem. Mady attempted to get up once again but, imbuing Lord's ambition's highly radioactive and corrosive properties to his right hand, Rimuru moved at speeds and ways that likewise defies physics as he launched an extremely powerful punch to the golem's massive chest. The movement that defies physics as mentioned here is that he moved at speeds approaching relativistic levels, sublight speed. Anywhere from 1% to 100% of light speed. 1% of the speed of light is around 3,000 km per second, and that's 8,746.4 times the speed of sound, and there was neither shockwave nor did he catch in fire with his speed. An immense shockwave assaulted the room as a result of the punch and a giant hole was carved into the giant golem's chest, destroying the core in the process as the light faded from Mady's eyes. That settles that. Rimuru turned around to Hajime and Yu, giving the two dumbfounded people a nonchalant thumbs up. Ha! You were always such a cheat. Hajime, sensei's the strongest after all. We have a long way to go. You. You bet I am, so, you better not slack off on training, Rimuru. The two weren't even mad that Rimuru intervened in their battle. It was understandably obvious why he did so. They were just annoyed by his overly sarcastic and nonchalant attitude. Ignoring Rimuru, the two went to Mady's giant corpse. Suddenly, a voice called out to the three of them. Sorry to interrupt, but things aren't looking so hot for me, so I'd like to get this out of the way before it's too late. They knew that voice. The light from Mady's eyes, which had gone out moments ago, had returned. Instantly, Hajime and Yu jumped back, eyeing Mady warily, as they were certain her core was already destroyed. Hey, no need to be so tense. You did it. I have no idea what just happened but, you won. I'm just using what little power's left to talk to you guys for a bit. I'll be gone for good in a few minutes. The fact that the light in her eyes was flickering and fainter than before, combined with the fact that she didn't move, seemed to support her statement. She was on the verge of disappearing for good. Really does look like she's gonna die in a few minutes. Hajime and Yu thought, while Rimuru watched from the side with an unreadable expression. Relaxing slightly, Hajime cautiously responded to her. So, what did you want to talk to us about, you half-dead golem? Seeing as you're about to die and still can't read the mood, I guess I'll award you the title of most insensitive liberator. Hajime. There's no need to be so mean. I was just starting to like you, too, Mady. Whatever. Anyway, I thought I told you I have no interest in fighting your world's shitty gods, Hajime. It almost felt like Mady sighed before she responded. Don't worry, that's not what I wanted to talk about. There's no need to. I'm just here to give you a piece of advice. Even if the spell you're looking for isn't in the labyrinths you explore, you'll need to acquire all of the ancient magic the Liberators left behind. In order to achieve your goal, m'lady. All of it, huh? Well, why don't you tell us where all the other labyrinths are, then? The records have been lost and no one knows where most of them are anymore. Hajime. Ah, I see. So it's already been so long that people have forgotten where the labyrinths are. Okay, well, there, m'lady. M'lady's voice grew weaker and weaker. It looked like she was reminiscing about the past. Yu looked down at her silently. She respected her determination. For the sake of her goal, for the sake of her dream, she'd abandoned human form and waited in darkness for centuries. M'lady mumbled out the location of the remaining great labyrinths. Among them was one that came as a surprise to everyone, except Rimuru, as he wasn't that familiar with this world's geographical, cultural, social, and historical structure. That's all of them. Good luck, m'lady. You sure are acting nice now. What happened to all the harassment and traps you sprang on us, Hajime? Like Hajime had said, the annoying cutesy speech and insulting tone was nowhere to be found. Instead, she was speaking with sincerity he could hardly believe from her. She had shown hints of this personality before their fight, so Hajime was beginning to suspect this really was her true nature. And now that she was moments from death, she had no need to keep up the facade. Ahaha, sorry about that, really. But you know, those fucking bastards are real scum. They do these kinds of underhanded annoying things all the time. So I just wanted to help you get used to it before, m'lady. Hey, how many times do I have to say it? I have no interest in fighting your mad gods. Quit assuming I will, Hajime. You will. That beauty over there could certainly do it, and both your and his choices will definitely help this world, m'lady. Yu suddenly walked up to m'lady. There was almost no light left in her eyes. What is it? M'lady's voice was barely a whisper. Yu replied in the same hushed whisper, giving her last parting words to the great liberator. You did well. You can rest now. Yu, words of praise. It was all one of the livings could give to her, an almost legendary hero that had waited all alone in the darkness for centuries, never giving up hope that her dream would one day be realized. It might have been odd hearing those words from someone far younger than her. Still, Yu could think of nothing else to say. M'lady hadn't been expecting that either. She just stared in surprise for a while. Finally, she spoke. Her muttered words were far gentler than anything they'd heard her say thus far. Thank you, m'lady, You, just get on with it already. Behind her, Hajime was nearing the end of his patience, and Rimuru's expression is still complexly unreadable. Now then, it's finally time. I pray that the blessings of the gods never reach you, m'lady. Hold on, those were the same words Oscar told us back in his house. With that parting remark, m'lady Ryson, one of this world's liberators, vanished. Entranced, Yu watched as the light of her soul rose up to the sky. At first I thought she was just a rotten, twisted little woman, but she really gave it her all, didn't she, Yu? Come on, why aren't you guys saying anything, Yu? Let's get out of here. Also, I know for a fact that annoying part of her personality wasn't faked. There's no actor that good, she had to have been a bitch from the start. Hajime. Hajime, are you dense? Yu, to that. Hajime didn't reply and Rimuru silently followed them. A section of the wall had begun to glow. They started heading toward it. It was relatively high up, so they'd have to hop across a few floating blocks to reach it. But the moment they jumped onto the first one, it started moving and took them right to it. Is this a reward for winning? Yu blurted out in surprise as she tilted her head. Only Hajime looked unhappy and Rimuru's still silent. After 10 seconds of travel, it stopped about 5 meters before the glowing part of the wall. At the same time, the light began to fade and the part of the wall that had been glowing fell away. Behind it was a passageway made of polished white stone that shone with a brilliant radiance. The floating block they were standing on began taking them through the passage. I guess this is what's going to take us to m'lady's house. A short while later, they found themselves staring at a wall engraved with the 7 Liberators' crests. It was the same wall that had led to Oscar's house in his labyrinth. As they approached, the wall slid to the side. The block didn't slow at all and took them through that opening as well. On the other side, they found. Hey there, not so long time no see, it's me, m'lady-chan. A miniature version of the m'lady golem. PFFTT, Ha 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 ha. Rimuru. What did I tell you? I knew she'd pull something like this. And I knew for a fact just by seeing Sensei. Hajime? Yu was stunned speechless. Hajime just looked annoyed. He had been hoping his guess was incorrect, but Rimuru's unusual behavior was a bit unnerving and he thought something was definitely up. He'd already guessed that both the serious Milady and the prankster Milady were just two facets of the person that was Milady Ryson. The intricacy and annoyance factor of her traps was too great to have come from someone who was just putting on a facade. Furthermore, she'd purposely chosen to leave her spirit behind to judge potential challengers. In which case, it didn't make sense for her to set things up so that she'd just vanish once she was defeated. After all, that would mean subsequent challengers would no longer have any trials to overcome. That was why Hajime had predicted that even if they destroyed her golem, Milady herself wouldn't vanish. His assumption was confirmed when the block they jumped on started guiding them on its own. Only Milady could freely control those blocks. As for Rimuru, he'd realized all that a long time ago, at the instant he saw Milady. The core of the giant golem was connected to this place via an exotic wavelength, which seemed to be what allowed her to control it from afar. The reason he didn't tell the others was purely because he wanted to get a laugh out of it. In stark contrast to Hajime and Yu's expressions, Milady and Rimuru seemed sickeningly cheerful, as if they developed a sense of camaraderie. Rimuru did always like to joke in the not-so-appropriate situations and he really enjoyed pranks. Huh? What's this? What's with the silence? Come on, shouldn't you be more surprised? Or are you just so surprised you don't know what to say? I guess my surprise was a huge hit. The miniature Milady golem looked a lot more human than her giant counterpart. She had a white mask over her face and her slender body was clad in a white robe, though it was rather off-putting that her mask was in the shape of a smiley face. Speaking in the same cutesy manner she had when they'd first met, Mini Milady walked up to them. Then what was that back there? You, back there? Oh, did you think I died? Nah, no way, I'd never leave, Mini Milady. But we saw a light leaving your body. You, foo, pretty good performance, right? I'm such a good actor. I really am a genius at everything I do. Milady got louder and louder as she spoke. She became proportionally more annoying as well. Oh, did I go too far? Milady muttered worriedly. You She looked apprehensively at you, momentarily at a loss for words, but then she seemed to resign herself to her fate as she spoke. Ehehe, just kidding, Mini Milady, die, you. Wait. Please wait, this body's really weak, I really will die if you smash it, calm down, please, I'll apologize, I promise, Milady. Hajime and Yu won, but not entirely. In the end, Milady Ryson did what some humans label as dirty. But that can only be foolish. There are no fair and unfair in battle. So, what she did was just a necessity. As such, I intervened and for the first time in my new life, used Beelzebub as offense. The part where I used it to gobble up my aura doesn't count. Milady did some drama after I destroyed her golem, but Raphael clearly saw through it. She filled me in the details immediately and I held back from telling the others as I wanted to see their reaction. Hajime, unsurprisingly, was able to see through. It seemed forcing a poker face amidst that huge drive to burst out laughing didn't do that well for me as my cheeks were weirdly puffed from holding it in. You, meanwhile, was perfectly fooled, and I couldn't hold my laughter at that point. After the whole fiasco was over, it was now time for farewell. The three of us stepped inside a magic circle. Since Milady herself had been the one to test them here, there was no spell that searched memories like the one in Orca's home. Instead, the knowledge of how to use the ancient magic she protected was transferred directly to our brains. My mind as I have no brain. Of course, that wouldn't have worked if I hadn't permitted it, as Raphael is a sort of impregnable firewall that protects my mind from all sorts of interferences. In just a few seconds, all three of us had the knowledge of how to use Milady's ancient spell, although it wasn't of much use to me. Hajime didn't have any aptitude, but he can imbue its effects to artifacts, while Yu possesses high potential with it. After, mugging and threatening Milady to hand over all her stuff and artifacts, we, Hajime and Yu, got flushed into a giant toilet as a payback. I somehow knew this, so I just floated as I amusingly watched my students get flushed into the giant toilet while cursing out abusive language. With that, we had conquered our second labyrinth, as times of chaos are soon to engulf the world, with us at the centerpiece.